Imagine waking up one morning, walking over and turning on the tap, and nothing comes out. You have no water for cooking, drinking, or even flushing the toilet. How long would you last?
Without clean water, things can go bad fast.
That scenario is closer than most people want to admit. And when water goes, everything goes.
Welcome to January Jumpstart inside the Ready Life Academy. 4 weeks, 4 basics: water, heat, food, and power. This week, you'll take your next step to getting your family's water supply covered.
And the goal is simple: give you a clear progression so you can take one next step without getting overwhelmed.
So let's start with a number. Not a vague idea, but a real number.
So how much water are you going to need? Well, FEMA recommends 1 gallon per person per day for drinking, cooking, and sanitation. And that sounds about right to me based upon our water usage during camping trips. So for our family of 4, for 1 week, that'd be about 28 gallons, or you could round it up to 30 if you want.
That 1 gallon per person per day is the bare minimum for drinking and cooking. If you can, aim for 2 gallons per person per day, so that way you've got some margin for basic hygiene, like washing hands and a little cleanup. And we recommend a minimum of 2 weeks of water stored. That 2 weeks will buy you time to get through most disasters and get a long-term solution figured out in case the big one happens.
Now here's the order that could save your life. You need to focus on storage first. Even if you have a well, even if you're off-grid, pumps fail, pipes freeze, power goes out, storage is your shock absorber. And if your back is against a wall, some of you already have water stored and you don't even realize it.
In an emergency, an excellent water source could be your water heater. It's already there, it's full of water, and if you lose your power, which results in you losing water pressure, this tank still has water in it. At the bottom of most of these water heaters is a drain valve of some sort. You could either hook a hose up to it or just put a pot here and unscrew it and let water out. And that can be an excellent source. Granted, yes, I've heard some comments from folks saying, oh, well, there's all kinds of yucky sediment that settles in these water heaters. But the thing is, all of the hot water that you use in your house is going through this tank. So you're already using that water. So I don't see what the big deal is. Use this if you need it. You could have 40 gallons or more there.
If you have warning, you can also fill a bathtub for utility water, flushing toilets, cleanup, washing, stuff like that. But we don't want your whole plan to depend on having warning because you probably won't know ahead of time.
So let's talk about the simplest dedicated storage option, the one that you can literally do today.
One of the quickest and easiest ways to store emergency water is simply buying cases of bottled water. There's a lot of pros to this option. It's cheap, sometimes as low as $1 a gallon. It's ready to drink right away. No treatment or filtering is needed. It's portable, so you can grab just a few bottles if you want and go if you need to evacuate. But there are some downsides. For instance, plastic breaks down over time. These thin bottles aren't designed for long-term storage. Over time, chemicals from the plastic can leach into the water, especially if they're stored in heat or in direct sunlight. Because of this, you're going to want to rotate them every 6 to 12 months to be safe.
And hey, I get it. People bring up microplastics a lot. But we're talking about emergency water, not an everyday situation. I'd rather drink bottled water with a bit of microplastics for 2 weeks rather than die of thirst or get super sick from bad water. And this is why it's such a strong beginner move. It's cheaper than most people think.
5 gallons of water storage for a little over $5. You try and find a food grade 5-gallon water container and you're going to pay, I don't know, 15, 20, 25 bucks, something like that. So this is a really inexpensive way to do water storage.
So if you're brand new, don't overcomplicate it. Hit your 2-week number with a quick and easy solution that you'll actually do tomorrow.
Now, if you want something sturdier than the bottles, then the next step up is 5-gallon water jugs like this that go in dispenser. They're tougher plastic, they hold up better, and they're manageable without needing a giant tank. The downside is that they don't stack well. So if you go this route, you'll need to use a rack that stores them horizontally so they don't take over your house. There's some good options that hold 10 bottles, which would be 50 gallons, or even 16 bottles, which would be like 80 gallons, and they don't take up much floor space.
These are also useful if you ever need to haul water from your home. So this is a strong upgrade that's still very quick and easy.
Now, if money is tight, you can still win.
This is an aisle I don't frequent very often, but these 2-liter bottles can make a great low-cost, really no-budget water storage if you can clean them out really well. If you already have some or can get a hold of some used ones and clean them out really well, bleach them, sanitize them, they can work. And they're thicker plastic, probably going to last a little longer than your standard run-of-the-mill little water bottles that come in the flats.
Just be sure to keep them rotated and use the storage principles we're just about to show you. And for utility water, like flushing toilets, washing, cleanup, food-grade buckets can really help, but make sure you do it right. Not all buckets are safe for drinking water. You need ones that are specifically food grade so that harmful chemicals won't leach into your water. On the bottom of the bucket is a recycling symbol, and make sure it says 1, 2, or 5. Number 2 is the most common, but you might run into 5s also. Both of those are good. You can often find free food-grade buckets from places like bakeries or restaurants. Just make sure you clean them out really well before using them for water storage. Buckets are especially good for utility water. For drinking water storage, I'd rather you start with sealed cases or 5-gallon jugs. Using food-grade buckets gives you options, and options are a wonderful thing to have.
Now, if you've got space and you want a bigger reserve, here's the next level.
You can get a food-grade 55-gallon barrel or drum to store water in. These are big, heavy-duty barrels that can store a lot of water in a relatively small footprint. But they do have some downsides. First, the pros are that it can hold a ton of water. One of these can supply a family of 4 for a couple of weeks. Also, it's very cost-effective. If you buy used, you can sometimes find them for as low as 30 cents per gallon. Also, they're very durable and can last for years if they're stored properly. Some of the cons? It's almost impossible to move one of these once they're full. Once it's full, it can weigh almost 450 pounds. It's also difficult to clean. You'll need a special siphon pump to access the water easily. Since they're not bottled in a sanitized factory and probably won't be completely clean, you should filter the water before you drink from one of these barrels. These drums can make a great backup reserve though. You store smaller containers for easy daily use, and if an emergency lasts long enough, you dip into the 55-gallon drum when needed.
That small daily containers plus a big reserve approach is a solid setup if you have room. A lot of people do the hard part with water storage, and then they ruin it with where they store it and how they store it. If you store water wrong, you don't just have stored water, you have a science experiment. So rule 1 is to keep it out of direct sunlight. Rule 2 is to keep it as cool as you reasonably can. Cooler and darker is better. Rule 3 is to store it full. Less airspace means fewer problems. And rule 4 is to think about freezing. If it's stored in a location that freezes during winter, then it's probably going to become a solid block of ice. You're going to need fuel and time to thaw it out right at a time when you're already stressed. And also when water freezes, it expands. Is your container going to survive that? These are questions you need to ask. So if you already have enough water stored, but it's not in a great spot, your step for today is simple. Move your water storage to the best spot you realistically have, cool, dark, full, and maybe protected from freezing.
Now, if you're filling your own containers, especially larger ones, our government emergency services recommend sanitizing the container and the water so it stays good longer.
While I'm filling it, we want to add 1/8 teaspoon of bleach, and this is just to sanitize the water as is. It'll be safe to drink, but it'll keep the water, kill anything that might be in there. I'll finish filling it up here. Okay, so we've got about a gallon in there, and now I'll just give it a little shake, and we're good to go. And that's actually safe to drink, believe it or not. Since I don't like drinking bleach, we're also going to link to a couple of other options in the comments, like for instance Berkey's biofilm drops that use silver and copper to preserve water for up to 5 years, they say.
If you're thinking, this is pretty simple, I can do this, then great. It is simple and pretty much anyone can do it. But I'm going to warn you, the time between saying, I can do this, and actually doing it is where most people stall out. Not because these things are hard to do, but because life gets busy and preparing for your family's future survival doesn't seem quite as urgent as tomorrow's appointments. To help you make it actually happening, we're running January Jumpstart inside the Ready Life Academy. Each week focuses on one basic necessity: water, heat, food, and then power. We start the week off with a live Zoom kickoff call, and it's recorded, so if you can't make it, you'll be able to watch it later. We make sure you're clear on what your next action step is, get your questions answered, and then we circle back to any questions from last week so you actually finish what you started. Members also get a printable cheat sheet with check boxes and key details so you don't have to replay the video hunting for the specifics. Plus, there's community check-ins through the week to keep this simple. If you want to run with this with us, it's still not too late. Just visit thereadylife.com/jumpstart to hop into the academy so you can join in with us this January for January Jumpstart.
Now, storage gets you through the first wave, but if this goes longer, you're going to need a way to take dirty water that you may find and make it clean. And that's step 2, which is purification.
My family experienced this years ago when a flood took out the municipal water system for like 3 weeks. Back then, we were dependent on FEMA to bring us gallon jugs of water. But I just got to ask you, are you really comfortable depending upon FEMA and betting your family's survival on them bringing you water?
Your plan cannot be hoping that somebody shows up. We're going to give you a ladder that starts with simple and goes to strong so that you can choose what fits your situation. If you have no gear, then boiling is one option. It doesn't remove chemicals, but it can kill bacteria, viruses, and many other threats.
You want to try and find the cleanest, freshest, clearest water that you can. Once we've filtered that out, boiling is going to be your best option. If you have that camp stove, you want to make sure that you boil your water for at least 1 minute. If you're above 5,000 feet, it's more like 3 minutes. Now, recognizing that this is not going to remove chemicals out of the water, it's only going to kill anything that's alive or that could make you sick in the water.
So boiling can work, but it costs fuel and it takes time. Another emergency option is bleach. Unscented household bleach in the correct low-dose amount is a surprising option for sanitizing water.
Almost anybody can do with something that they have in their home is to use regular household bleach. Then we can use the CDC guidelines of almost 1/8 teaspoon of bleach per 1 gallon of water. And then you want to let it sit for 30 minutes. Just like with boiling, this doesn't remove any bad stuff from the water like chemicals. This just kills the live bad stuff.
Not ideal, but in a crisis, it's better than dying of thirst or getting a stomach bug. But for most families, the best repeatable option is a non-electric filter because it's convenient and it keeps working when the grid doesn't.
Something every home, every car, everyone should have in their purse is a life straw. It's something that's inexpensive and easy to have on hand, and it gives you so many options when it comes to purifying water. I just found here where this water is kind of trickling out of the ground. So now I've got some water as clean as it can be in this area, and then I can just pull this off, stick it in here. Actually, I gotta pull this off too. Okay, now I can stick it in here and hello, water. So the Life Straw is something that everyone should have. This will filter up to 1,000 liters of water. Just remember though, it does not filter out chemicals or toxic spills. If you're in an industrial area and there's a lot of debris in the water, you may not want to use that there.
Those are some basic options, but if you have a little more money to put into this and you want a big step forward, that would be the Berkey. It's a countertop filter. Gravity forces it through the filters where you now have drinking water. This one is made by MSR. You put the dirty water in this bag, hang it up in a tree, gravity pushes it
through the tube, through the filter, into this bag where you end up with clean water. MSR actually makes their Guardian series, which filters more finely than almost any other filter that I'm aware of. It can even filter out viruses, which is rare for filter. They work just as well during a disaster as they do when you're on a backpacking trip. And that's what we like. Simple, repeatable, and it works without the grid.
All right, so here's the progression. Find where you are at and then take the next step. Don't jump 10 steps ahead. If you have no stored water, then storage is your first step, 2 weeks minimum. That's something you can go out and do literally tomorrow. If you already have enough water stored, then purification is your next step. I would purchase a water filter right away and leave the boiling or chemical methods as a last-ditch backup. Your water filter could be as cheap as a $20 Life Straw or as big as a $300 Berkey filtration system.
If you have both water storage and purification in place, then you build independence based on where you live. In town, that could mean rain catchment into a cistern for serious utility water. In the country, a well is huge, but you still need a non-grid way to pump, either a hand pump or a fuel-powered generator, or even better, an off-grid solar system with battery backup. But don't chase the cool stuff. If your family doesn't even have 2 weeks of water stored, focus on that first so that you're as ready as you can be for what happens tomorrow. So your assignment is simple. Identify your next step, whether it's storage or purification, and do something about it this week. And if you're at a more advanced stage, your next step may take a little longer, and we'll walk you through that step by step in detail in the Ready Life Academy. You'll learn how to choose the right hand pump, design an off-grid power system, choose a generator, and more. And most of all, you'll have real humans to answer questions and give you advice. And if you want the cheat sheet for each week of this Jumpstart, the weekly interactive Zoom calls, the community check-ins, and some gentle accountability to make sure your progress continues, then join us inside the Ready Life Academy for January Jumpstart. You'll be glad you did. Just visit thereadylife.com/Jumpstart.